Hello, everyone. Welcome. And for those of you who are waiting for us to begin at 6, I appreciate your patience. We had a really robust executive session where we were diving into our strategic plan and doing some pretty intensive knowledge and problem solving on our early literacy and math and attendance. So important stuff. We needed a few extra minutes to make sure we were able to wrap up that discussion. So thank you for your patience. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And the first item of business is accentuate the positive. We gave all of our admin the meeting off. So does anyone else have a positive to share? And if you go ahead and raise your hand, that'd be great.
Can I just speak up?
Yeah, go for it.
I want to give props to Brent, the weatherman. I will never let him not have this title, but I'm really grateful for all the work and you and the staff and trying to predict this. And yeah, I might be here till spring, but it's all good. But I really appreciate everyone's work during this process. And I know there's many happy families who've had time together too. So it's a good opportunity.
And thank you to our maintenance crew as well for their work. They were showing up in not the greatest of conditions and trying to get our schools ready for tomorrow. So thank you so much to them. Other positives? Tiffany, go ahead.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I'd like to give a shout out to a couple of our speech and language pathologists. We had a resignation with Carmen halfway through the year, and Jody Correpta, who serves our middle school and our high school, has stepped up to help Kelly Reed, who's come out of retirement, to serve the students at Orchard Hill. So I just want to give a big thanks to Jody and Kelly for that.
Very nice. Okay, any others?
I just want to say Monday was a challenging commute home for people and our buses. And I just can't say enough about our bus drivers who pretty much every bus was chained up and it was treacherous at times, but we got the kids home safe and all the buses back to the bus barn. So just that jumped on us Monday. And I know there were other stories about buses and getting stuck, and just to commend our bus drivers. So really appreciate them.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you to them as well. I feel like we were in a good position with all the calls and the decision to close early, and all the kids and staff got home safely, and that was not the case throughout Southern Oregon on Monday. So very thankful for that, for everyone who played a part in that. Okay. I don't think we have any student reps with us. I'm sure they've been absolutely crushed to have this week. And then I don't believe we have anyone from the associations here either. We will go to citizens' comments. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak? I see that Julia has joined us. Thanks for joining us. I didn't know if you wish to speak at all, Julia. Okay. Okay, great. Well, thanks for being here. So superintendent report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Campbell. Just a few things. Want to just, seems like we haven't met in a while for some reason, but we still are keeping an eye on the PERS rates. We talked about that increasing percentage next year or the next biennium at nearly 9% for us. As the projections continue to come in, we the next biennium 27-29 is looking pretty dire. at some point, I think we'll come to the board to see how we want to prepare for the future and look at some per set aside or how we want to tackle that. Some people might say, with our pension bonds coming to an end, do we do more pension bonds? And it just the everything has to be set up to make that less of a risk. And right now, our advisors are saying that's not a wise thing to do. So we'll continue to look at that because over the last, gosh, what was it? Almost 18 to 20 years, that really saved us. That reduced our percentage rate quite a bit and saved our taxpayers money. And if that's an opportunity that we have in the future, we'll continue to do that. But we will have more of a general liability for our PERS rates next biennium and into the future. I think you may have Project Youth Plus, the December update. They send a monthly update in packets. They're a great partner of ours who support our kids and take them to surrounding areas and college visits, and they've been a really good partner. So they have some information there. The Bear Creek Nature Classroom meeting, that's our property down on Bear Creek that was donated to us. We had our consultants run a listening session, and John was there. Dawn and Sarah made that. Julia was there also. Thanks for participating. And there's about 30 plus people in that meeting and kind of sharing kind of what they would like to see for that space. Obviously, there's going to be some things that we aren't feasible for us to do. It is a district property, not necessarily a community property, but we want to get community buy-in on what they'd like to see there, and then really partnering with the city and the county on the surrounding areas as well. You can see that report, I think, is in your packet as well. Want to talk a little bit about, as you know, when we talk about unfunded mandates, financial literacy and college and career standards are new for graduation requirements, but that isn't funded by any means. So we're looking at how we do that in our current system. You may know that we have a teacher that has taught financial literacy at the 8th grade level at the middle school for several years. We're looking at seeing how that meets that standard, and a lot of that does meet that personal finance, financial literacy. And we're looking at if kids can earn that credit at the middle school, it won't necessarily be an additional class at the high school, which if it's an additional class at the high school, we've talked about this with the high school staff and Tiffany and our team, it could potentially take a CTE elective away that they would not be able to participate in and impact our electives in that manner. So we're looking at trying to offer that high school credit at the 8th grade level. It's not unheard of to offer that. And so we'll look at that, as well as getting creative in college and career standards with some other courses that we have. So our current sophomores, I believe, are the ones that are required to have those requirements. And so we'll make sure that happens. If they don't go to our middle school or they did not pass that, we will have look at doing a credit retrieval model through Admentum. And Wayfinder has some financial literacy aspects as well, our new tool we're using for that regard. Graduation rates came out a couple weeks ago. Again, 94.8% four-year graduation rate for Phoenix High School. As a district, we were at 86.7 because, as you know, Armadillo is included in our district rate. But for the high school, that was a good to be up or near 95% is the goal. And as you know, our strategic plan is shooting for 96% by 2027. That's all I had, Chair Campbell.
Thank you, Brent. Did you want to just give a quick, and I know it may be early, but just on, since with the missed days, what that might mean for the school calendar?
Sorry about that. I didn't have that on my notes, but I was going to address that as well. So we do have, we're going to have to make up some time. Our high school currently is not meeting the instructional hours, and then with a 2-hour delay tomorrow, we'll need to make up some time. So we have discussed where we can fit that in. We'll get with our ad team to look at that. as you may remember, you adopted a calendar that has Friday before Memorial Day as a non-contract day. We could have regular school, to get back on time. We'll also need a little more time, and so we'll look at some other options as well. We might turn a minimum day into a full day. So we have some options, but every other grade level looks okay. If we have another full day, some other grade levels, 6th grade and 5th grades might dip underneath there. But if we add a full day back for everybody, that'll take care of it. So
Awesome. Thank
I
you for
don't
that.
think sometimes they will, like, I don't know if you remember in the Willamette Valley area, they had almost 2 weeks with no school. And so they gave a waiver for some of those districts that on instructional hours. I don't know if our regional asked for that or if it will be granted anyway. So we're planning on meeting the required instructional hours at this time.
Sounds great. Thank you. No snow dances, anybody. This is this is enough. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other questions for Brent? Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Next is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I second that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dawn. Replay says she was in first. Any objections? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Next is information and discussion. And the first item is legislative OSBA. And might I add NSBA update?
Thank you. Sarah is going to do the OSBA legislative stuff because I'm just going to be honest with you. I am not caught up on what's going on in the state at this time. I've had OSBA board meeting. I don't think I need to report that. I've had PACE. I don't think I need to report that. I was in DC. We had a lot of talk about what's coming up. The first 100 days of the new president is going to be very fast, and so there's going to be a lot of changes. New likely vouchers will be highly likely, and funding will probably be pushed through the state, but I don't know what's going to happen when there's also talk about they want to change, they want to control what is teaching, and then if the state is controlling and it's opposite, what happens? I really don't know how funding through the state is going to look. There's a new bill out called Keep Our Pact Act, which is to get Title I and IDA funding into a separate pool so it's constantly there. No one can ever take it away. Senator Merkley has signed on that, and Senator Wyden is behind that as well. So that's great. A new bill came out when I was in DC called HR 99, and that's to get rid of the Department of Education. When I was visiting the senators, I had a good conversation with one of his aides, and he's talking about wildfire and structures and stuff. And so he might be a good contact for us to talk to about our challenges with having a wildfire and our ADM and all of that. I just briefly talked with him about that. We're awaiting a Supreme Court decision on E-rate and internet school libraries that could cause funding for us to go away for our libraries and internet at schools. We're waiting for that. Let's see, hang on.
And these are this is federal legislation that you're talking about, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going really fast, but you can talk to me, or we can, they're also working on federal rural school funds. We're not exactly sure how Title IX is going to work at this time. I think it's really important, I'm going to spend a little time on this, that we advocate as a state and not as a region. I noticed some people when I was there advocated as a region, and then some advocated a state. And one of the questions for up north, when they were talking to the representative, they said, you know, if you don't get federal funding, what would happen? And she's like, we would be okay, we would be fine. But then she shared the story and said, but other schools won't be. Phoenix Talent won't be fine if they don't have federal funds. So I think it's important that when we're out there advocating, that we're really clear what's going to happen, the whole state picture. So a representative doesn't go, oh, the schools in my region will be fine, all this fight back or something. So I think it's really important now that when we're advocating, especially federally, we think about the whole state so that when our legislators are making choices, they have a lot of information. I think we're going to have to be patient and get a lot of legal advice in the next year, but I think we can do it. There was a class on restructuring education, and it was really interesting. It was like a cross between Waldorf, Montessori, hands-on learning, and CTE. So I'll send that information. It was really interesting. And then we had a class with AI. The guy that helped come up with Google Chromebooks is now on the AI team, and he came and talked about AI and how it's in school and how it will work with Google Chromebooks. And I think that was the best AI session I've ever had. So, oh, and then last but not least is there is a nationwide student rep association, and it just started, and I think that that's something that we need to get our student reps in. There's probably more, but that's what I have for now.
Well, I know I have a question, but does anyone else have a question for Don? So vouchers, how would the federal government tell states that they have to implement vouchers?
I think most of the things the federal government's going to do is not give you money if you don't do vouchers. You would get no federal money. Again, that's why I'm saying we need to be really clear that when our representatives know that how bad that will hurt. Because I think a lot of the repercussions are going to be funding. But they didn't get into that much.
And it'll be real interesting to see how they're controlling anything money related if there's no Department of Education, right? So it's like one of those things where you don't want a Department of Education, but you also want to implement things. And so the question becomes, how do you implement things if there's no department to implement them?
Well, I think what actually that they want is to get to, they're thinking, I don't want to put ESDs on the spot, but you know how when money goes through the ESDs and money pays for admin, and so he's thinking if money goes to the Department of Ed, then you're taking money's coming out of, there's money being spent for extra instead of it just going to the state. But I also think it's a way to control this. He's still electing a Department of Ed person. They're still going to have, it's probably going to go through another department to regulate schools, but it's still going to be there. It's just the funding is going through the states. And I think that's the way he's planning to leverage a whole bunch of his missions, but I'm not 100% sure. That's the feeling I got.
There was a really good article today. It was brief, but good. Hopefully you all saw it from the OSBA update that came through today about what does the federal Department of Education do and what don't they do. And it's essentially for us and for most districts, it's two things funding wise, right? It's Title I and it's special ed. And so I think this is where we are going to need to really be working with the state and our legislatures, and I'm sure OSBA will be really involved in this. Is you know, Title I don't know how that will stand up legally, but we do have a legal obligation under special ed. So to threaten withholding those funds, I do see a legal fight coming there. And so I'm just thankful, Don, that you are part of this group and part of these conversations and had the opportunity to go. this week, and just appreciate your effort and advocacy and knowledge that you are bringing back to us so that we can be aware of these things and have these higher level conversations with the people that we need to have them with.
Thank you, Michael. And I think that's why the Keep the Pact Act is really important, because it would say do at least Title I and IDA funds would at least be secure for all schools. And I think that would be a really important fact. And hopefully it does pass, and that's a little bit more security that we didn't have before.
Yeah, I'm glad they're working on that. Any other questions? And then Sarah's got an update for us.
Hi,
Go ahead, Sarah.
so statewide, I'm gonna read a little bit from Stacy's notes, which we're gonna send out. Dawn and I sent a email last week, and my goal was to try to get 2 weeks ahead. So like on deck in the whole type of mentality with, if you were looking to advocate, you would know a little bit ahead of time so you could get prepared for that. But trying to compile all of that information may prove to be a little more challenging than or just time constrictive. So big things that were talked about for the first 2 weeks, which ended last Friday. Special ed, they're prioritizing the special education, preparing for the potential hearing in House committee on February 17th. It will be a very full hearing, and there may not be much time for testimony. So OSBA is organizing their advocacy group. But if you wanted to submit written testimony, of course, there's no time for that. And we have heard from Representative McIntyre that that is helpful. So there's a couple of different perspectives on how to push for funding lift on special ed cap, is to maybe ask for the cap to be increased to 15%, or keeping in mind that we need an investment to raise the cap, as well as to increase the reimbursement rate for the high cost disability fund. So how does that look in our advocacy for getting more funds for our our students who receive special education services? The other thing, just talking about funding, and as we come through the next few months of session, I know that there are some large concerns about federal funds and potentially using state funds to backfill budgets that have already been set. So OSBA is optimistic about fully funding the governor's proposed 11.36 billion state school fund plus some investment, but because of the uncertainty of federal funds, we may need to really be advocating strongly for that. The House Bill 2140, which gave some updates to the state school fund, really sets us at a great starting point, and not having to really battle from 50% to 51, the 4951 going into statute is really helpful for moving forward and setting the tone for advocating for increased funding. And board member stipend will come before Senate Ed. So they're still talking about that bill. And there's some different bills coming up about being able to file for unemployment for the teachers, and impose reporting requirements for talented and gifted. And then the other, just Brent, I don't know if maybe COSA and other partner groups are talking about the conversation with, there's some extra money that they found for the PERS. So it would give PERS board additional flexibility to apply monies in the school district unfunded liability fund. So there's going to be some conversation around that and how to use that to the best leverage for each district across the state. So that's what I've got for you.
Brent, you had
Yeah, I'll
your
just
hand up?
add a little bit to that. That basically what they're looking at, that could impact on average from 1.5% to 2%, for the next biennium for district. So if you're looking at us at a 9% increase, it could potentially reduce it to 7% liability. So some relief, but not a ton. But they're just still discussing that. Just want to chat a little bit about House Bill 3165, which really is the wildfire ADM security for this current year. We're short, so there'll have to be a reconciliation, and they're looking at doing that through a reconciliation bill for this biennium to make sure all 4 districts stay whole and get what they were promised in that original ADM security bill. In addition, 3149 House Bill is on the docket for another 4 years of ADM security. So COSA is working with us on that. Tentatively right now, March 12th will be a hearing, and it'll be important for us to be in person there. And we'll share a little bit more about the planning of that, when that is. But it's the afternoon of March 12th. And I figured, and Morgan was even talking about possibly making just a day out of it and talking the impact and talking to legislatures about the importance of wildfire relief for the 4 districts. So we'll let you know about that, but we'll tentatively put that on if anybody wants to join myself and students and maybe some staff and some families too. So that's the only update I will share.
That's the tentative date before the education committee or the whole house? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Brent. You muted
The
again.
House Education Committee, I believe that's the first hearing for that.
Okay.
But I'll get more information from Morgan, and just so you know, we have, I don't know how many on this list. There's hundreds and hundreds of bills that Greg and his team are reviewing, and a lot of them are unfunded mandates, no thanks, unfunded mandates, no thanks, unfunded mandates. But there are some, obviously, that we would like that have money attached to them as well.
Great. Thank you. Any more questions for Brent or Sarah or Don? Awesome. Thank you so much for all of those updates, and got a good national and state picture there. So thank you. Thank you all. Okay. Next is committee updates. Do we have committee updates?
I just want to talk a little bit about Culver Road, and we really haven't had a committee meeting, but we're continuing. ZCS is continuing to push through on helping partition the land for the Boys and Girls Club, and then also starting on the requirements, what it would look like, what our obligation would be for infrastructure on the 2 soccer fields. So we have another meeting next week to discuss. We did get assigned a DEQ voluntary cleanup person. So that person's going to be in the meeting next Tuesday as well. And we, Jonathan, who presented at a work session, has worked with this person before, and it's a good person to have on our team. And will really be dialed into knowing what the requirements will be to do the voluntary cleanup piece of it, which we've committed to do. So that's all I wanted to share.
That's good news. Progress being made. Good. Anything else in committees?
I did notice that there was some changes in the City of Talent with Alex being taking can't remember his name, the guy who came and visited with
Gary.
the place. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure Brent's planning on calling in. I think you probably know Alex already.
yeah, he is
And
on regional. Yeah. He's like
yeah. I think he's well known to us, and I remember being on some calls with him during the early days of the Post Elmeda fire. So, but might be good to send a note. introducing or reintroducing and welcoming, congratulating, etc. Okay, health education curriculum. Are we kicking this straight to Tiffany, Brent?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Go ahead. Tiffany.
Thank you. So normally when we do a curriculum adoption, we have committees that meet to look over what the Oregon Department of Education has proposed. ODE does have a committee with teachers throughout the state and community members. This year for health, it's a little bit different. And that is because there was just one for each level that met state requirements. We did have the option if we want to go through an independent adoption, but with health, it's a lot of sensitive information, and it's nice to be able to have a curriculum that just follows all state expectations and promotes student well-being. So I did contact the principals, and we thought just to go ahead with the only one choice that the state presents for each level. So elementary is The Great Body Shop by the Children's Health Market. It's what we've been using for a long time. So that it's nice that it met state standards. It's also available in Spanish. It's available online. And again, in K-8, we've been using The Great Body Shop for many, many years. High school is different, though. The stuff we've been using is kind of old. And the only one that was marked acceptable by meeting state standards is called Live Well. It's by Human Kinetics. It's one textbook. I disappear when I try to show it to you. One textbook for a full year. So in our high school, it's one semester in 9th grade, a semester in 11th grade. So the one adoption would fulfill both credits for that. We would need to have time for high school health teachers to meet to decide what's going to be taught with each semester for the grades. But I mean, I looked through it. It's available for public comment and public viewing. It does support well-being and meets the state expectations. Again, fortunately for us, and the one that was chosen, it's available in Spanish, and it does have online versions for us.
Great. Have we had any members of the public come and review it?
Not that anybody filled out any comment sheets. No, and we've had it available since winter break has been over. So it's been there for a little bit. I do have, if any of you want to look before you vote next time, I've tabbed some probably things of interest, little parts that I get asked the most about health curriculum. And for
Right.
K-8, I set aside some of the volumes. They're in like monthly newsletter type information. So if you have kids in our district, you've probably seen them. I set aside some that might be of interest to our community, particular interest. But it's
Great.
very, I believe it's well done. It's very factual, straight to the point, but very inclusive and supporting all of our students.
Awesome. So if we want to review those tabs too, we can just come see it at the district office.
Yep, they're in the boardroom.
Got it.
I mean,
Might
I have
have
them
to be
right now,
next
but
week.
yeah, I will return them tomorrow. So.
Okay, sounds good. If you can, safely. Okay, awesome. Any questions for Tiffany or Brent about health adoption? Okay. Sorry, I just muted myself. Filing date for board members. So just a reminder, and I think Denise sent a email. So the candidate filing begins on Saturday, which I find very strange. I don't believe the elections office is open. I think that's probably a calendaring thing. It's got to start a certain number of days before the election. So just an FYI on that. There's some dates there. March 20th is the filing/withdrawal deadline. March 24th is the voters pamphlet filing deadline, and May 20th is election day. Any questions about that? Okay. SOESD local service plan, one of our favorite topics around these parts.
Thanks for kicking that over. There's not a lot of changes in this, just a few different things that they obviously dates changed and things of that nature. I think we did a pretty big overhaul a couple years ago, or maybe it was just last year. I'm not sure, but we really gave input on the service model. We're still, working with, the ESDs, the services that they give to us. But I think we've increased the accountability on their end, and we know who's coming into our buildings, how they're serving our kids. And so we've improved in that regard. Some of the things that we're talking about as districts is really ensuring that the ESD is serving all 13 districts, and it's what districts are asking for, and not necessarily what they get grants for. Or if they write a grant, really kind of making sure the districts are informed. Because every once in a while we'll say, hey, we're providing this professional development, we're providing this webinar, we're providing this training, and it's a little bit out of the blue. So we're trying to increase some communication there because the ESD gets a number of grants. And we want to make sure that it's related and supporting our strategic plan and our kids and our community as a whole. So if you read through that and have questions, please reach out to me, shoot me an email, but that'll be on the docket for action next time. And if you want Scott to come and answer any questions as well, he's offered that. He's a superintendent. He is resigning after this year, so they'll have a new superintendent next year. Done.
Thank you. I haven't read the contract. I apologize for that. So this might be in the contract. A couple years ago, we talked about districts being able to give input about the ESD superintendent and about services and stuff. Has that been improved, especially with us getting in a new ESD superintendent? I think this is like the perfect time to give input on how we'd like to see this process move forward.
I think that's a fantastic point, and we can certainly share that. They do surveys, and we do provide input, but I don't think the board has filled out a specific survey for the ESD. Do you guys see that coming your way at all? Okay, that might be something that we can certainly ask the boards of the 13 districts to provide input as well, and maybe even what you're looking for in the next superintendent. So I can share that with Scott in there. So you can share with their board. Thank you. But if you read through that, yeah, just shoot any questions in the next couple of weeks and we'll get them answered.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, now we have some policies that we will take action on at the next meeting. The first is board policy AC, non-discrimination and civil rights. Any questions on that one? Questions or comments? Okay. Next is GBNAA-JHFF. Questions on that one? Okay. GCAA. This one's pretty not a huge amount of changes. This codifies some laws that were passed last year. Okay, JFEAR. Are we taking action
I
on
have a
this
question.
one? Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, I had a question about the individualized plan for pregnant and or parenting student. How is this used, or what is the purpose, or I don't even know how to ask this question. I guess I guess, how is this used and what is the purpose of this? And curious about that one.
Do you want to address that, Tiffany? And I think this one is, I'll find out for sure, but I think we do need to take action on this for next time.
So our counselors are the people responsible for writing the pregnant and parenting plans for our students. We actually get a double weight for students that are pregnant and parenting, and that provides some extra funding to support tutoring or alternative services for parents when they're on maternity and paternity leave for their children. So every student, when we find out, fortunately, we don't have that many, but when we do find out if they're pregnant or anticipating fathering a student, that they do have an individualized plan developed between them and their parents or guardians and the counseling team to talk about how they can continue their education while still caring for a new little one.
Thank you, Tiffany. That's really helpful. And I thought it was fascinating. And in my head, I'm thinking, are they connecting, parents or to be parents to other local resources? I know that there's a lot of agencies that help support, and that was where my question was coming from. Like, oh, I'm hoping that this gets utilized, of course, with the consent of the student to share their information with other resources to just help as a community bring resources to support this student. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next one is sorry, these look, I'm confused by this. Why do we have something called the same with reverse policy codes?
They're just in two different areas in the board.
Oh, one's in the, yeah, I should know that. Okay. Got it.
But yeah, the same.
Same
update.
policy, one's under students, the other's under staff. Any questions on that? Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I need a 2-minute bio break. So are we okay with a recess? Okay, we'll say 5 minutes back here at 7. Welcome back. We'll give it one more minute because I said 7:02. We're all so speedy and efficient via Zoom. Okay. Action items. First is adopting criteria for evaluating the superintendent. So just it's a little bit confusing. This is the criteria for the next period. We're currently in an evaluation process. This is adopting the criteria for the next year. So do I have a motion for this action item?
I move to adopt the OSBA criteria for evaluating the superintendent as presented.
Like obviously.
I'll second.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Rebecca. Discussion? Okay, I couldn't tell you how well this is working because it's the first year that we're doing it. So, but I'm excited to go through this process over the next few weeks. And I think it'll be really good. So I'm going to go in the order that I see you on my screen. So Dawn,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
I vote yes. Criteria is approved. Next is the TES solar contract. Brent, did you want to?
Yeah, you have this in your packet, and this is just so you guys know. We run this through council. The board's counsel is Thad Palk on this. He's a whiz at contracts. We've done contract with Amoresco before, and this is really exciting because it gets a solar at TES as well. So John's really excited to hopefully this passes that he can start ordering equipment and meet that timeline of being up and running by the fall to start getting solar energy in our buildings.
Yeah, this provides battery backup as well, right? Which is the big part of the whole deal. So, great. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the TES solar contract as presented.
Please second that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Nancy. Discussion. Did you have a question, Rick?
No.
Okay. So one of the questions I had was what happens if the federal funds for a project like this are frozen or stripped? And essentially we don't have any risk with that. We're contracting with a company who's got the grant. So we're like a second party. We're like twice removed from that process, and that company also has some protections built in. So just asked and answered, but it was a question that came up for me within the last week. Present news included. So, okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, this is very exciting. So we will vote. Dawn.
Yes.
Holly.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Nancy.
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
I vote yes. Get stuff ordered, John. Okay, K3, board member development funds. So Nancy has this is our first of these. If you remember, we passed a policy that said board members need to submit for trainings they're going to be doing. So thank you, Nancy, for getting this in. The training is tomorrow. So just the way the timeline worked. So do I have a motion?
I move to approve the board member development funds request for Nancy Castillo McInnes as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Rebecca. I'll definitely be supporting this. I know that Nancy went last year, and also it's tomorrow. So I think we should definitely support it. Any other discussion?
Ask why you're choosing to go to an administrator conference?
Thank you, Sarah, for asking that question. So the Oregon Association of Latino Administrator, it's an effort to create a vehicle to support and mentor Latino administrators as well as Latino educators as we that aspire to become administrators in the state of Oregon. We know that we serve a very beautiful, diverse population. And we also know that there's a very limited representation at leadership levels. So my hope is that through my participation, I get to learn hopefully more strategies and tools to really better equipped and attract really high levels of thank you, high levels of folks to come and support us and just to continue the good work that we are doing in our district. But we also know that there's very limited pathways. So my hope is that while attending conferences such as these that have places and practices that are better established in Northern Oregon, that we can bring some of those strategies into our local communities in Southern Oregon.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other discussion? Okay, Dawn,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Nancy,
I abstain.
Rick. I'm calling him Nana. Sorry, Rick, I didn't hear you. Thumbs up. I'll take that as a yes, John McCain style. Rebecca,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thumbs up works. Okay, next is board policy GCBDA, GDBDA, family and medical leave. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve changes to board policy GCBDA/GDBDA, family and medical leave as presented.
I second that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Nancy. Discussion? Okay, Dawn,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
I vote yes. Policy is approved. GCBDC, GDBDC.
It sounds like you're
Domestic
rapping,
violence.
Michael.
Trying. It's a late in life career change for me, but working on it. Do I have a motion?
Okay, I'll do.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I move to approve changes to board policy GCBDC, GDBDC, domestic violence, harassment, sexual assault, bias, or stalking leave as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you, Sarah. Discussion. Okay, we will vote. Dawn,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Nancy, Rick,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Nancy gave a thumbs up in case you didn't see that.
And I did say
Denise.
yes. Sorry, I didn't
Oh.
unmute myself quick enough.
It's okay. Thumbs up works. I just don't want to guess people's votes by reading lips, but the thumbs up's good. Okay. Last item is board policy GCBDD, GDBDD. Sick time. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve changes to board policy GCBDD/GDBDD sick time as presented.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dawn. Discussion. Okay. We will vote. Dawn,
Yes.
Polly,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
I vote yes. The next meeting agenda is there for your review. Any questions or comments about that? Sarah?
Oh, go ahead, Polly.
You caught the same thing I did, right?
I don't know. My question is this the one that Kristen comes and walks us through?
Yes, thank you for asking. So I believe, let me find, I have, hang on a
Denise might
second.
be able to help us.
Yeah, I have an email from her that walks through the timeline. So let me just grab that real fast.
Yes, this is the exec session that Kristen will walk you through the
Yeah.
evaluation.
She's Denise is going to send us the evaluation form, or we have it now. It was in your packet, right? So we're going to ask you to fill that out, and and then you want that back to you by the 14th, Denise?
Yes, please.
So
Because then I have
Kristen's
to
going
forward it to Kristen.
Yeah, so we're going to fill out the evaluation, send it to Denise by next Friday. Kristen's going to take that, review it, and then we will meet as a board to discuss it, and Kristen will walk us through the process. She will be remote and we will be in person, weather dependent. I'm saying it's going to be sunny for the rest of the winter. So yes, any questions about that?
I see it's at Orchard Hill. Do they have Zoom room for us in the staff room where we usually meet?
Yeah, I was just gonna say we could roll a monitor in there.
It's actually in a different room.
Oh, it is, okay.
I think I put it in
Like
a
it's
note, like room 21 or something, but
Yep,
yeah,
room
it's in a different
21.
room.
Yep. I'm going to forward this email to all of you so you have it.
I have probably just revealed that I did not read Denise's email, but I saw that it was attached and that it was due February 14th. So thank you.
Yes. I don't know that Denise sent that email to everyone. She sent the timeline to me to review a couple weeks ago. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, the other thing I noticed earlier when we were going over the JFEAR, we talked about how we were gonna vote on that. I don't see it in action items under the draft, so
I don't think
know.
we actually are voting for it. I
Okay,
think that was just for our review.
okay.
Yeah, I thought it was because it was sometimes those special plans need to be approved, but Denise is on that. So if it's not on there, we don't need to approve it. Thank you.
Good catch, though. Okay, Brent, Unrelated to the agenda question for you, I imagine even though we've called a delayed start for tomorrow, we're still going to be assessing the situation tomorrow morning with our bus partners and
Yeah, and just
confirming that we're good to go.
at the bio break, I was looking out on the roads, and they're starting to get covered now. So I think the big thing will be when it does clear up or stop, what the ice impact will be. So,
Okay.
yeah, Ashland just closed, and so we'll be on the call with bus barns and superintendents in the morning.
Fun stuff.
Tune
This
in
is
at 5 o'clock.
well, it's a little bit later tomorrow just because we're on a tour. So we'll actually make the call at 7 a.m. So
Okay.
they'll have to get the buses on by 7:30 or 8. So
Okay.
Thank you, Brent,
Very
and
good.
the rest of the superintendents for just consistently being up. And I meant to say this earlier and accentuate the positive, like your communication around this and positive attitude has really been so moving. And I'm so grateful as I still have a kid in the district, but I also get to talk to a lot of parents in the district, and it does cause disruptions, but overall people are incredibly grateful, like that safety has been the main concern. And yeah, so I know it's really early mornings and constantly checking and probably not getting good sleep because you're trying to stay on top of things, but that doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. And our staff and our families actually have been great about it. So I know it gets a little old, but we'll just keep making the best decisions we can.
I told Brent, and this would have to be like a project on standby for the next time it happens, but doing a behind the scenes of everything that goes into making these calls for snow days would be a really compelling, like Loop with the Soup or some other type um, material to share with the community, because there's a lot of, I don't know if you all know, but there's a lot of coordination that happens. All the local superintendents get together and talk about what they're doing, and they get with the National Weather Service, and there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes. It would actually be pretty interesting, I think, for the community to know. And as you saw Monday, it's sometimes it's tough to it depends on who you're hearing from and what forecast you're looking at. And but yeah,
Not
I
just that,
echo. Yeah.
like the buses and the food and like all the things. I'm just like blown away.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
for
amazing.
example, tomorrow, if we keep a 2-hour delay, like Sodexo they'll have essentially cold items out, cereal, fruits, yogurt, not necessarily a hot breakfast, because they'll have to turn around that lunch like that. So
Mhm.
it's not easy for them, but they're great partners. And you heard it, Joe, 5 a.m. on the roads next time, video and Loop with the Soup. So thank you all.
Just
I
put a
appreciate
little
it.
special request for that now so you can prepare for it. Thank you all so much. We are adjourned. Have a great evening.
Thank you all. Be safe.
Thank you, Michael.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.